it all worthwhile. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, actually, is taking, I'll start sharing my screen. And this is the kind of stuff we're going to be sharing today. So the conversations that we're having day to day. And I know last week we talked about, it was very similar in the sense we were listening and noticing everyday conversations um, for positioning and messaging. Whereas this week we're going to be looking out, listening out for content ideas in everyday conversations. And, you can sometimes have, you can have clients that will willingly say, I like this, Ben, like James has been kind of doing, Gary, you've done it in the past. But then sometimes you get clients that might not be, they don't think to say those things, do they? And that's fine. That's totally natural. But there are things that you could say to them, or emails or touch points. You could say, how are you finding it? What have you learned? What's been a breakthrough? And then you get those responses and you're like, right, that's boosted me. It's also helped me understand what I'm good at. And I can use that to turn into a content piece that then speaks to other people that I really want to work with, right? I won't get ahead of myself because let's get started. I'm just going to triple check it is recording. Yeah, it says pause, so I assume it's recording. Right, so welcome to this week's Members Weekly Group Coaching Session as part of the Personal Brand Hub. Personal Brand Hub is a community that I have created for founders that are on a similar mission to build personal brands that position them as the go-to experts within their industry. This week, what the hell do I even talk about? And we're going to be looking at everyday conversations to unlock endless content ideas without sounding like everyone else on socials. And the great thing about listening to these everyday conversations is they're unique to you. So the content ideas are going to be unique. And we'll come on to the benefits in a minute. I always get ahead of myself. I get quite excited. So if you've been here before, you'll recognize Ben's Be More You framework. And this is my motto, Be More You. And James kindly complimented me on it yesterday and the kind of meaning it has behind it. And that's really encouraging. And I love that. And it is what I stand for. And I sort of got the phrase out of, it's funny, I was the private healthcare guy in my previous business. And that came out of wanting for people to understand what I sold. I was frustrated that people didn't understand what I sold. They were getting confused. And the Be More You frameworks actually come out of lived experience as well. And that's, speaking to people that aren't willing to be themselves and are not willing to step outside that comfort zone. So now and this can work for you guys. The reason I'm telling you this could work for you guys as like a mission statement or something. It attracts people that are willing to be themselves and that will align with me and that I can best place to help. Because if you're not willing to be yourself, there's not really much I can do. And I don't want to waste your money and time. So the Be More You is an anagram. So we've got beliefs, experiences, moments every day behind the scenes, opinions, results, expertise, sharing your why to build an emotional connection. Others, so that's like collaborations and networking, to grow your network. And then last but not least, unfiltered, which sort of brings it all back together. Just dropping the professional facade sometimes and letting people get to see the real you. And once shared consistently, you attract better clients, opportunities, talent, and funding. And that's what I experienced firsthand running my first business. And that is my aim for you guys. That is my mission for you guys. So gold dust in disguise. Well, it's not necessarily in disguise if you know what you're listening for. And I'm going to give you some tips as we go for what to listen for. The best content that you produce or will produce is hiding in plain sight in the conversations that you're already having. And today I'm going to break it down into 3 types of conversations that you tend to have. And that's going to be sales conversations. Don't really like calling them sales. I like calling them get to knows. I know it sounds a bit fluffy, but I believe that with a strong personal brand, you do not necessarily have to sell to people. Your personal brand should do the selling for you. And once you're sat down in that conversation, that get to know session, it's essentially a point of, do we get along? Can I help you? Do you actually need me? So there's sales, there's networking, so what to listen out for in networking. And then last but not least, what to listen out for in client conversations, coaching sessions, or when you go and see them to do some work for them. In Gary, in your case, for example, what are we going to be looking out for? What are we going to be listening out for? So sales, networking, client updates, or client calls. Absolutely packed with real unscripted insights. Please stop hunting for big ideas and start bottling the small moments that show your thinking. So here is one I posted this morning, a LinkedIn post, off the back of a conversation I had with a lovely girl named Emma. And she said to me, I can't remember what I said, but she said to me, I'd probably be your ideal client. And I thought, okay. I didn't say no immediately. I didn't say yes immediately, but I did some poking around with my awkward questions. And I quickly established that actually she's 2 years into business. And although she doesn't post very often, which was really interesting, she is very clear on her messaging on her LinkedIn, and in conversations that she has, like we'll call it the sales conversations, the get to knows, she's incredibly clear about her beliefs and values and what she doesn't stand for and what she does stand for. That became apparent. That became very clear to me. And I said, do you work with people that you don't like working with? No. Do you love working with them? Yeah. So she knows her worth, and she sets that expectation from day dot. And that's just her naturally. She's just good at that. She's unfiltered, right? That's the unfiltered part of the Be More You framework. So the Be More You lens, your beliefs and past, present, lived experience will all show up in your daily conversations. You'll often find that I go off on a tangent talking about my lived experiences, and you might do it, in your conversations about, oh, I had this experience that happened then. Take that. Even when you're talking, that's when ideas come out. It's not just, it is, so there's two parts to this. There's listening and noticing what other people are saying, and there's listening and noticing to what you're saying. And I will often pick up ideas that come out of my own mouth because they're my opinions. And I'm like, right, I didn't think about that. Yeah. Because when you're in flow, if any of you, both of you have done podcasts, I know that. And you're going to agree with me when I say this, that you're in flow in those podcasts, and you'll start saying things that feel totally right. And you're like, yeah, God, why have I never said that? And that's why I love taking your podcast recordings and transcripts, and you should always do this, and use them for content. And if it, just plug it into ChatGPT and say, give me 5 topics of things that I talked about in this podcast that I talked about passionately and that might speak to my ideal customer persona if I share them. So listen to things that are coming out of your own mouth, and they can be turned into content ideas. It's not about inventing ideas that you okay, so moving on to the next bit. So yes, it's not about inventing ideas that you think people will like. It's about noticing, listening to what they're actually saying and answering it within your content. So first up, we've got sales conversations or get to knows. I'm going to put that in there because I'm actually going to sort of go down a path with this in my content coming up in the future, that there's no such thing as sales conversations. And this is going to be one of my new things that I stand for. Spot the phrases clients repeat. These are your content hooks. I've been struggling with XYZ. And what I've done here is actually given, these are sort of hypotheticals. One is a quote from my hypothetical client, or my hypothetical prospect, sorry. What exactly do you do? Like, are you a content writer or coach or something else? Right. So that's what people might say to me at a networking event or in a sales conversation. To be honest, I shouldn't be sat in front of people that are asking these questions, because they should be they should know through my messaging and my LinkedIn that they know exactly what I do. I have had DMs last week saying, I know what you do. I know how you can help. Let me know how I can work with you. right? That's what you should be aiming for. But hypothetically, okay. Now, how do I turn that into a content idea? Most people think that I help founders get better at content, or most people think I'm actually a LinkedIn coach or something, which, okay, perhaps I'm good at LinkedIn, but I don't. I help them get seen by the right people by becoming more them online. So that's a good piece of content for me, and that'll help educate my audience. Gary, I've done one for you. So why would we pay more when we can get a drone guy to shoot a video for 50 quid? Right? And this is like, I can't imagine you've heard this exact phrase, but I should imagine you might have heard similar things. Right? Go on, Gary, you can jump in here. Just give me some couple examples of people sort of undervaluing you, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. I had something recently where I'd done a bit of work for someone who, yeah, after I'd done the work, she didn't think it was worth what I was asking, and I used chat to kind of help me with this because I thought, well, we'd agreed on a price, and I've spent a bit of time and hours working on this, and I kind of felt really undervalued, and I felt really kind
How?
of cheap, and almost like I didn't give a fuck. I thought, do you know what? Screw you. You know, if you don't think this is worth what, it was only 150 quid, but she was like, no, I don't think it's worth this. And I said to her, well, what do you think it's worth? And she said, half 75. And I said, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I recall. How could you turn that into a piece of content to set the expectation for future prospects?
I think it's just about understanding your value and understanding, you know, that it's probably more to do, yeah, it's to do with your value and saying,
Knowing your worth.
knowing
Yeah.
your worth and knowing that, you know, you've spent years doing this kind of thing, or you know, it's not something that you can just switch on. And I felt really shit about it actually, because
Didn't we do a piece of content on it in the end
yeah, I
a
think
little while ago?
yeah, we've definitely done posts on that or content on that, on knowing your
Right.
worth.
No, it builds your value. Yeah, because then it puts it clear. Like, right, if you want to
Yeah,
work with me, these are my values.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just making them super bloody clear.
And you know, I heard that people saying I could get somebody to do this cheaper, and I've said, well, that's, you know, I had somebody phone me up and say, can you build me a website for £200? And I said, no.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is not the kind of people you want to work with. Yeah.
I said, and she says, well, I can get somebody to do it. And I says, on you go, crack on, you know.
Your loss, knowing your worth, isn't it? It's not
Yeah.
lack of desperation. We've talked about this. I think I've talked about it with both of you recently. Is this
Yeah.
new approach with no desperate language, no using the words free,
Hmm.
and knowing your worth. I might not be the person for you, but if you think you might, if you think I might, and you're just curious, why don't we have a chat? Something like that. None of this, like,
But something that you and I were speaking about, Ben, that was a win for me was we talked about doing a bit of research before a chat or before a video call with a
yeah,
potential client, you know, and going and looking at their website or going and looking at their social media and
yeah,
having a better understanding of the digital footprint so that in the conversation you can drop in little kind of nuggets and say, oh yeah,
yeah,
I seen your socials or your website's looking great,
yeah.
even if it isn't looking great.
Shows you care. I mean, I've been doing it for a while. It's not like I haven't prepared for meetings, but Hormozy backed me up recently. Alex Hormozy, he
Mm,
literally posted a post about this. He was like, the amount 99% of people don't do preparation before meetings. You'll be amazed. And if you go to a meeting just knowing what previous job they used to work, believe me, you're going to stand out from 99% of the other people. And I do it all the time, and people love it. Right, I'm conscious of time.
mhm.
So here's one for. So that's how you turn that. So here's how you could turn that into a content idea, Gary. Buy cheap, buy twice. I say yes. You can get a drone video 50 quid, and you can ruin your business by looking cheap as chips. I make videos that add value to your biz, not just views. So for James, we're scaling fast. So this is what someone might say to you in a sales conversation. We're scaling fast, but culture is becoming inconsistent and managers are struggling, and now HR systems feel like they're being built for a team half the size. Where do we even start? How can you turn that into a piece of content? Right. When your people problems start compounding, you don't need more HR. You need a partner who can connect the dots between culture, leadership, and systems, so the whole business grows, not just the headcount. How does that sound, James?
Yeah, I mean, it is really insightful in how a statement can double up both as content and a sales pitch. And I guess I hadn't really, I mean,
Connected.
it sounds obvious when you say it, but a thought piece or an observation is an opportunity to sell. And I think that's been one of the light bulb moments, because I I may have mentioned, but my husband's in a veterinary practice I
Yeah.
that, and we brought on a marketing team, and every week they talk about putting calls to action in their content, but I hadn't actually, but because it's kind of on Facebook and Meta, I hadn't actually made the link that for my LinkedIn
Yeah.
content piece is a sales opportunity and is a call to action.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we go down the subtle route. So I add in a question. So what do you think about this? And then it invites them to comment, which creates engagement, which pushes it out to more people. And then it creates a deeper conversation that you can have in the comments section. Or one of the ideas that I created for you recently is, well, actually, you're probably not going to want to share this kind of information publicly. So why don't you drop me a DM and we can have a conversation about it there? And then you're creating those meaningful conversations in your direct messages, which is gold. And if they're not an ideal client, you could use them for research. That's what I do for my coffee chats. I take content ideas from my coffee chats, and then after the session, I send them an email saying, because they've ended up talking about themselves for half an hour because I've asked them loads of questions and they feel guilty. So they just, yeah. So I say, well, look, if you want to help me, why don't you just answer these couple of questions for me? It's good market research for me. What are you struggling with? What are the common misconceptions about personal branding, or what do you struggle with visibility wise or clarity and stuff like that? And I turn that into content. Right. Right. We need to get a move on. Sorry. So networking moments. This was a really big one for me because my last business was run. My bread and butter of my last business was networking. So BNIs, early morning breakfasts, the hard slog, right? And when I first started, there were people that hadn't come across health insurance before. This was me, goodness knows, 5 years ago now. And this was a video that I did off the back of the misconceptions that I was facing in everyday conversations. I was frustrated. I was like, people just don't get it. Why do you not understand the importance of not having health insurance, right? It's sort of like, I know that, that shouldn't be the right attitude, but it came out of this place of wanting to educate. And I was hearing these things about, health insurance is too expensive, or we've got the NHS, or you haven't got freedom to choose which consultant you go to. So I started answering all those things. And I guarantee if one person's asking it, as I've said here, 100,000 other people are thinking it too. So go and answer those questions those assumptions that people make about your industry. If you explain what you do in a way that lights people up, capture it. So with my old business, my catchphrase was, I put you into hospital faster than a heavyweight boxer. That was you may like that, Gary, don't you? But that was memorable for me. And the one I thought for you, Gary, and I know I love this, and I don't know if you've used it often, but you're a drone pilot, right? So I said, Red Bull doesn't give you, let's be honest, Red Bull doesn't give you wings, but Gary does.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I thought that was my way of trying to make you memorable, and you use that in your networking situations, and people go, "Oh, you're the Red Bull guy," or "You're the guy that talks about Red Bull not having wings," because everyone sees the Red Bull advert. Everyone sees it. Everyone sees that Red Bull gives you wings. Sorry, go on.
It's something that I've learned through BNI. I don't know if you probably picked this up, Ben, but every business has got a tagline that they use at the end of their little 60 seconds.
Is it memorable?
Yeah, a lot of the time it is, because they're quite funny,
What's yours?
Mine's is, unlike a bear, there's no hibernation.
Yeah.
Which isn't funny. Or
it's cute.
All right, yeah. And it's actually not, but the other thing is it's not true, because I do like a sleep.
Yeah. Gary's a night owl. He'll stay up till 2 a.m. sending me emails and WhatsApps, and then I wake up at 6 a.m. and get all these WhatsApps and emails. And I'm like, oh God. But then he doesn't wait. Go on,
never,
sorry.
never let the truth get in the way of a good story, Gary.
Yeah, yeah. Use try mine out, Gary. Just do it. Try it once.
I know. I need to start. I mean, I scheduled a post for this morning, so I'll go back and re-edit it because
Yeah.
I need to do more of that because those little taglines are, if you can
Gold
make
dust.
it smart and funny, then
Yeah.
people will remember you. And I'm going to a networking event next week at Edinburgh Zoo, right? So I'm going to be taking lots of photos and I'm going to get loads of content ideas because I'm a bear at the zoo at a networking event, all that.
Go and find a bear. A koala. It could be a koala bear. Anything. In fact, I don't think a koala bear is actually a bear.
No.
So if you can find one,
Oh yeah, I'm at the zoo.
you can make a post about that.
I'll find
There you
all
go.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so turn common misconceptions into punchy educational content like me right here. Client work in action, what to listen for. Ideally, when you simplify something complex for them. So if they say, I've had a breakthrough, I've really appreciated this, or, oh, you've just made me realize this. Bingo! That's a content idea right there. When they say, this week I've noticed, and a client, I basically just said that, a client shares a shift, a pattern, or realization you help spark. Or there could literally just be a question, how do you do this? Or how do I go about solving this problem? Okay, well, let me set it out for you. Here's my method. Here's how I would solve it. And that answer that you give becomes your post. And if you're in person, you should have a notepad and pen with you or a laptop or something. I can't imagine anyone would be going to client calls or client meetings without some form of document writing it down. So just write it down there and then. This is the answer I gave. And then maybe when you leave the meeting, just work on it a bit more so you remember actually what you're going to post, and then put it in your phone, in your notes in your phone, sorry, and then turn that into a piece of content or send it to me if you're one-to-one client. James, you just put yourself off mute. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, it's just reinforcing what you said earlier on, Gary. Ben. That so much time I've invested in thinking about these big LinkedIn posts and like having to write a chapter and verse. But as you were talking, made me think. I was with a coaching client this morning who was talking about, they were a 7 on their insightful thinking, they dropped to a 3, and how did they get back? And just that one bit of content they were struggling with, we talked about X happened, is a piece of content, and I'd never really even thought about it like that. I don't have to be something thoughtful that you'd created a post around, and it's really provocative actually.
And it speaks to other people because it's actually real genuine concerns and lived experiences that people are going through, rather than you going, oh, I think my clients need help with this, or I think my target audience need help with this. Assumption, there's probably some phrase around this that I'm not clever enough to remember, but assumption is the killer of all good business, whatever, right? Don't assume, never assume.
Yeah.
Okay? Never assume what you think people want or need. Anyway, go on rabbit hole on that one. And last but not least, I'm struggling with a challenge they're facing that you can unpack publicly, minus the personal details. So I will obviously always share mine anonymously. A client said this. Share stories of client wins or shifts without breaching confidentiality. Yeah. Ready-made content straight into your lap. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Capturing those ideas. No, actually, I'm going to shift that one here. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples that I have actually had. These are quotes from my coaching calls. I cannot make posts fast enough. If I actually make a fast post, there is always something that I miss because it's not natural to me. Okay, so I can take that. If quickfire posts always come out clunky, stop forcing speed. Your best content comes from slowing down and saying it your way. Why not focus on one meaningful, impactful post per week? And that is a value post for me. Okay. And the next one, I'll tell you how I've done this in a second. I've been trying to reach out to people in my I think this was you, Gary, actually. I've been trying to reach out to people in my networking group for one-to-ones, but there's just no response. Okay, I create a piece of content around that saying, if you're chasing the wrong crowd, stop chasing the right. In personal branding, my belief is that the right clients don't need convincing to talk to you. That's why I talk about why there's no such thing as competition and there's no such thing as sales calls when you've got a strong personal brand, because people know your value already. And what I've done here is actually, I transcribe my coaching calls. I'll plug it into a Word document, and then I'll put it into ChatGPT and just say, look, what kind of topics have we been talking about today? What kind of problems have I been what kind of problems have I helped solve? Well, with this in particular, I asked, what are questions that my clients ask me that can be turned into content ideas? Okay, just one simple. What are questions that clients ask me? What are the themes around the questions that clients ask me that can be turned into content ideas that align with my ideal customer persona? Okay. Capturing these moments, keep a running conversation notes, a document on your phone or a Word document. I've got, I collect my transcripts like fucking stamps religiously. Even my coffee chats, because they're really important, because they're conversations with people outside my ideal customer persona. So they can give me some content ideas. Well, yeah, I'm just trying to think what I use them for. Yeah, I use them anyway. Oh, yeah, to direct my line of questioning. That's how I use them. One good sentence from someone can become a full post, podcast, or article. If you're doing, I said this last week, if you're doing meetings, sales calls, whatever, sales meetings in person, just write it down in your notepad there and then. If you've got a Remarkable, if you've got a laptop, you should have a notepad and pen. Yeah, I can't imagine you wouldn't be right. Just write that down there and then. Those things that you're hearing. I'm struggling with. How do you do this? Okay. And then note down your response. Why this works so bloody well. So this is in response to what you were saying, James. Like, the reason this is so good is because it's content from real life that sounds like you, not press release of what you think people want to hear. It builds trust because it's rooted in real lived experiences, and you're never going to run out of content ideas. I've actually, for the first time ever, because I've started implementing this and really started listening to people.
There is no point paying to have a website.
What was that, Gary?
Oh, sorry, not muted.
There's no point paying to. It's all right. Anyway, I was saying, I've now got scheduled posts for LinkedIn a week in advance now, because I'm just coming up with these. Well, I'm not coming up with them. My conversations that I'm having are coming up with them. So I'm just churning out content ideas like there's no tomorrow, that are speaking directly to my ideal customer persona. And content ideation just becomes second nature without even trying. You don't even need me.
Can I quickly ask you, Ben, what
Yeah.
are you using